And just like that, yo girl is 30. Shake it for that birthday. Hey, drop it for that birthday. Hey guys, I'm Tiff. I'm an American living in Paris, and I'm here to help you navigate life abroad, as well as share some of the life lessons that I've learned during my time in Paris. And guess what? I just turned 30. So I turned 30 on May 10th, so I did celebrate quarantine style because we were still on lockdown here in Paris. And it was an awesome day filled with Zoom calls. I was on Zoom for like 7 hours that day, just catching up with friends and family. It was honestly really, really nice. But I figured, you know, in celebration of my 30th birthday, it would be fun to share with you guys 30 things that I've learned from making this big move abroad. So 30 things that I've learned just from making the big move abroad, you know, jumping out of my comfort zone and also just evolving over these past few years. I've definitely picked up a lot of fun quotes, inspo, fun things that I've learned about Paris and just kind of having to move abroad in general that I'd love to share with you guys today. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and now let's get into the 30 things that I've learned from having this experience living abroad, jumping out of my comfort zone, taking a risk. Let's get into it. All right, so I'm gonna be reading my list off of my phone because I could not remember all of these 30 things. Psst, make sure you stick around to the end because number 30 is the best one on this list. But the first one is choose the place that chooses you. And this is such an important learning for me because, you know, I think that, you know, for me, coming here to Paris, it was never a huge dream of mine or anything like that. I feel like in so many ways, this experience chose me. And I say this because, you know, it was really my mentor who talked to me about the MBA program out here that really led me to France. And even just coming out here, you know, it just really felt like home. Like I just always had this feel-good feeling about Paris and going to the MBA program and also staying here afterwards. And it's also interesting to see how things just kind of lined up for me here. You know, I graduated from the MBA program, then right after, actually even before I graduated, you know, I got an offer to work out here in Paris. And even now, you know, even though my contract has ended, I'm still able to dive into so many things that make me feel like here is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. So always choose the place that chooses you. Number 2, whenever you have the chance to bet on yourself, do it. Always do it. And this is another huge learning for me because, of course, you know, me coming out here, making this big move abroad was a huge risk. You know, I was basically blowing through all of my savings, moving to another country, you know, leaving everything that was comfortable for me. You know, I was kind of stepping into the unknown. I really, really bet on myself with this one, but in my heart, I just knew it was what I wanted to do and what I needed to do. And it's been working out. So that's why I say, you know, if you ever have the chance to bet on yourself, take a risk that you know is so important to you and you know feels so good in your heart, do it. Always do it. Number 3, if you don't start a conversation with bonjour, you're screwed in France. And I say this to say, you know, I feel like coming out here, especially when you are American or a foreigner and aren't yet fluent in the language, you know, sometimes you just want to ask a question with the little French that you know. But out here, it is very, very important to first start with bonjour, ça va, like how are you doing? Because if you do start speaking to them in their language and they kind of, you know, get the feeling that you're not fluent, they will either try and switch into English, but, you know, they are a lot more friendly if you do try and speak to them in French first. And I've just noticed, even with the French as well, it's always bonjour first with anything. Always start with bonjour. Number 4, travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart, but that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. And this is actually a quote by Anthony Bourdain, and this one spoke to me so much just about the experience that I've had in Paris in general. Like, I've gone through some crazy times, you know, getting kicked out of my apartment. And if you haven't watched this video, definitely check it out. But things aren't always comfortable when you're living abroad, when you're traveling abroad. You know, it can be pretty scary when you come across things that really aren't familiar to you, or you just have to figure things out. And, you know, there are situations that really break your heart and leave you devastated. And I've definitely experienced this in my time abroad. It's not always fun. It's not always exciting. You know, it is real. The struggle can be real out here, which I think I said in my intro video as well. But It's quite the experience, but it does change you, and I think it changes you for the better. Number 5. Never let the fears of others determine your future. And this is such an important learning for me because even when I was about to make the move abroad, a lot of family was very fearful about what I was doing. Was I going to be okay? Was I going to make something out of this? Was I really giving up everything in the States for a good reason? But if you know it's good for you and in your heart, do not let their fears get away, because sometimes other people's fears can kind of become your fears as well. And just don't let that happen to you. If you know that it's good for you, go ahead and do it. Don't let anyone else's fears determine your future. Number 6, and I think one of my favorite learnings, is when you take the leap, the net appears. And this has held true through and through in my life out here in the States. I don't even think this is just about living abroad, but just doing something out of your comfort zone. If you take a risk and again, that it's good for you and the direction that you're going in, and you can feel that it's the right decision for you, do it. Because when you take the leap, the net appears. And I've seen this with, of course, moving abroad. I moved abroad, did this MBA program, had no idea what was going to happen next, accepted a job to work out here. Just things really started to line up. And I really, really do think that when you take the leap, the net does appear. Number 7, I love this one. It's not a coincidence, it's a sign. The big guy upstairs is trying to tell you something. And not just the big guy upstairs, but God, universe, whoever you believe in. I'm a huge believer that it's a sign, it's not just a coincidence. And it's funny because when I was getting ready to make the decision to move abroad, so this is back when I was in New York City, all of these signs were pointing me in the direction to France. I would randomly start to see posters about the Eiffel Tower everywhere. And at the time I was working in PR, and all of a sudden we have this client who happens to be a French designer and wants a Parisian themed event for us to host. All of these signs were there. It's insane. And I was like, is this a coincidence? But nah, girl, it was a sign. Coming to France was the move that I was supposed to make, and I'm so glad that I took that leap and did it. Number 8, the best falafel in the world can be found at L'As du Falafel in Paris, in my opinion. So y'all, if you haven't checked out this restaurant and you're out here in France or planning to take a trip, come to L'As du Falafel. Honestly, home to the best falafel that I've ever had. This place actually got me hooked on falafel. I had never even really tried falafel before this, but best falafel in Paris, hands down, and probably in the world too. Number 9, you're on a journey with no defined beginning, middle, or end. There are no wrong twists or turns. There's just being. And your job is to be as you can be. Oh my God, I love this quote. And this one's by Jen Sincero from her book, You Are a Badass. If you guys have not read this book, please read it. Do yourself some good and read this book. But I do love this quote because, I feel like oftentimes in life we're afraid to do things because we don't want to make the wrong decision or we think we're going to make a mistake. But what I've realized over the years is that there are no wrong twists and turns. You know what I mean? I feel like everything that you do in your life is either teaching you a lesson, or actually, one of my favorite sayings is it's either a lesson or a blessing. And I do feel like, that's how it is with anything in your life. There's no wrong move or no wrong decision. It's either a lesson that you learn from making that decision, or it turns out into being a blessing. And I also think the part about, being as you can be is so important because, making sure that the decisions that you make are for you and that they're not for other people. As long as you're staying true to yourself and true to what you truly want, I feel like you can't really go wrong. Let's see. Next one is 10. Oh my God. There exists on this earth a place where living in 3 different apartments in the span of 2 years is considered normal for a foreigner. Y'all, my struggle, honestly. In the first 2 years of me living out here, I lived, 4 places, because I lived in the dorms in Sergi, which is where my school was. I lived in an apartment in the 15th arrondissement, which is the place that I got kicked out of, then moved into a sublet, and then moved into the apartment that I currently live in. And it's crazy because, and especially when I posted that video about getting kicked out of my apartment, so many other foreigners living out here were like, oh my God, Tiff, like the struggle is real. I've lived in 3 different places. I've lived in 2 different places. I just think that apartment hunting in Paris is super, super difficult, and you kind of gotta go through the motions. It's almost like you gotta pay your dues before you can find the right place for you in a sense, but listen, it's real out here. It's a struggle when it comes to the apartment hunt, but things do work out in the end. I have to say that. So number 11, the people who matter don't mind, and the people who mind don't matter. So this has been a huge learning for me over the years that, there are going to be, some people in your life who don't really like what you're doing or always kind of have something to say. And I've noticed that these people don't really matter when it comes to, the grander scheme and the bigger picture of your life. And, the people who don't mind and who accept you and, are excited to see the things that you're doing, those are the people who really matter in your life. And I feel like I've learned that just from moving abroad and just from evolving and growing. But that's been a huge learning for me over the years. So number 12, New York City is to France what Paris is to the United States. And I actually thought that this was very interesting when I first moved out here, and a lot of people would ask me where I'm from. I would say New York City, and so many of the French people out here would be like, oh my God, you moved here from New York City? Like, why would you leave New York City? Like, New York City is the best place ever. I've been dying to visit. I've been dying to live there. Like, to them, New York City is it. Like, it is the creme of the creme, which I think was so funny because, for us in the United States, I feel like a lot of people have, the dream of visiting Paris or moving to Paris. So I thought it was funny how it's kind of swapped. Number 13. Tell your story. Your story is important. Don't let your story go untold. And this is actually something that I picked up from the series Hollywood that's now on Netflix. And it's Archie's character that says this, if you guys are watching the series. But I think that this one is so important because I do think it's important for us to start sharing our story because you never know who needs to hear your story in order to, get to where they need to get to in life. I feel like our stories, yes, they're so unique to us, but I do feel like in a sense they have huge healing power, a huge power to help and serve other people. And I think it's really important that we all start sharing, what we've been going through, our experiences, and you never know who you could help in the process. So I encourage you to tell your story. Do not let it go untold because you are here for a reason. You are doing what you're doing at this moment for a reason. And I do think it's so important, of course, when you're ready to kind of share what you've gone through, share what your experience has been, because you never know what fire you could light in someone else. Number 14, ridiculous is required. What you are called to do will probably sound ridiculous until it's your reality. And this is a quote from Mike Todd. He's the pastor of Transformation Church. And I love this quote because I think a lot of times people think that, what they truly want in life is crazy or ridiculous, or it's something that they could never obtain. But I do think that ridiculous is required. Like, if your dreams don't seem ridiculous to you, then you are not dreaming big enough. I'm telling you. I think that it's almost a confirmation when people tell me like, oh, you're never going to be able to do that, or this is crazy, or even sometimes get fearful, because it's almost an indication to me that I am on the right track. I feel like you are supposed to do things that scare you. I think that your dreams are supposed to be so big that seem unimaginable. So aim high, keep your dreams as big and as crazy as they absolutely can be, because I think you will be surprised by what eventually becomes your reality. All right, y'all still with me? Make sure to hit the like button if you are. And let's get into number 15. So number 15, the French are not rude, they're real. And I definitely wanted to put this out there because so many people ask me like, what are the Parisians like? What are the French like? We've heard they're rude. And honestly, I don't really think that that's what it is. And I say this in a few other videos as well. I think that they are very real and also very passionate people. I do think that oh my God, this strap is like bothering me. But I do think that they are just the type of people who say it like it is. You know, they mean what they say and they say what they mean. They're not going to sugarcoat things. If they don't like something, they're going to say it. If they like something, they're going to say it. If they're your friend, they're your friend. If not, they're not. And they're not going to smile in your face if you're walking down the street and they don't know you. I feel like it's just a different culture. I feel like it's just very different in the sense that, like, sometimes I feel like in America, we're kind of all trying to be friends with everyone and keep the peace and not step on anyone's toes. I feel like here, they're just real. So that's definitely a point I wanted to make about the French. They're not rude, they're real. Number 16, if you have blessings, don't build a higher fence, build a longer table. And this was said by none other, my girl, Lily Singh. And I think this just goes to show that, like, when good things are happening in your life, you know, how can you extend your hand out to help other people? You know, how can you pave the way for someone else? Because I do think that everything that we experience, even our wishes, our desires, our wants, I feel like they're so much bigger than us. And actually, in my video about manifesting your gifts, I talk a lot about how sometimes your gifts are meant to manifest in order for someone else to manifest theirs as well. So this has definitely been a learning for me over the years, and honestly why I love sharing my experience about living abroad with you guys in hopes to help you guys, you know, make the big move abroad, you know, get more clarity, more direction, you know, just kind of extending my hand out to help you guys. So this one is so important to me. Again, if you have blessings, don't build a higher fence, build a longer table, and help people in the way that you feel like you can and that you're comfortable with as well. All right, number 17, your steps are ordered. And this has been a huge learning for me just, you know, during my time out here as I've grown, and I'm sure you guys have seen this in your life as well. But our steps really are ordered. Like, I can see so clearly now how certain things in my life had to happen in order for me to get me to this place in my life. And I feel like even certain things are happening in my life now to kind of get me to another level. And I think it's so important, you know, when anything happens, whether it's good or bad, to just remember that it's all a part of the process. And it's really helped me to find so much comfort in every single situation in my life and be so grateful for anything that's thrown my way, because I know ultimately that all of my steps are ordered and are all happening at a specific time to get me to exactly where I need to be. Number 18, when we strive to become better than who we are, everything around us becomes better too. And this is actually a quote from my favorite book, The Alchemist. I'm gonna link this one below, but I'm sure you guys have heard of it. But I love this quote because I think it's so true, you know, and it's been a huge learning for me that when you actually, you know, make the decision to be better, have a healthier mindset, eat better, work out, exercise, or even just kind of stay true to yourself and trust yourself and the path that's being laid out for you, it's just really interesting to see how everything around you starts to change as well. And I think I've seen this the most, especially with my gratitude practice. It's like the more and more grateful I am for what I have, the more happiness I experience around me as well. So I do really believe in this. You know, when you strive to become better than who you are, when you take that leap into, you know, a journey that really will set you up for success, I feel like everything around you starts to work in your favor. You know, things start to make you happy. You know, you really start to discover the path that you're supposed to be on. So that's another good one, another good learning. Number 19, vibes are a thing. They warn you, they guide you, they never let you down. So as you guys know, I'm huge on vibes, energy, all of that stuff. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I can feel vibes and energy a lot more stronger than I used to. And I feel like I can now really feel and realize, you know, those things that are meant for me, those things that aren't meant for me. But I say this because it's so important to understand and know the vibes that you're getting from things and situations, because I do think that they are meant to guide you, to warn you. And they're not always bad. You know, sometimes you get a vibe where things feel really, really good and you know that that's the direction that you're supposed to be taking. But really pay attention to those vibes and those energy signals that you're getting, because I really do feel like it's your internal, like, spirit system that's kind of trying to tell you about something or a situation. Number 20, be thankful for closed doors. Woof. This is one that I feel like has presented itself to me in so many different ways, and I finally got the message. I finally got the learning, because I've seen it apply to my life where, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. And I think that's why it's so important to be thankful for those doors that have been closed and to kind of not force those doors to open, because I think that sometimes they can be protecting you. And I also think that sometimes they can be stopping you from something because they know even better is on its way. So always be thankful for closed doors. Number 21, people who haven't been where you've been and aren't going where you're going won't always understand you, and that's okay. The right ones will. And this has been a huge learning for me, just starting to be okay with people not really understanding me, or you know, thinking that what I'm doing might not make sense to them. You know, that's okay, because I feel like there are people in this world, you do have a support system that do understand you and are happy to see you doing what you do. And I think that this has been important for me, is to just understand that, you know, you're not for everyone. You know, as you grow, things change. You know, as you evolve, things change. Your mindset changes. You start, you know, doing all of these things, sometimes ridiculous, crazy things that are so in tune with you and might not be in tune with other people, and that's totally okay. I feel like there always are going to be people who understand you, and those are the people that you really should be having in your circle and relying on the most. Number 22, there's magic in the madness, and I actually talk a lot about this in this video, but this has been a huge learning for me over the years as well, and especially in my time living abroad, because I've noticed that, you know, whatever crazy or situation that might seem bad at the time is, you know, has always pushed me into a situation that is so much better for me. That's why I say there's always magic in the madness. There's always a blessing in the chaos. You know, I think this kind of goes back to me also saying that our steps are ordered. So always remember that, you know, even if you find yourself in difficult times, the other side of it is so much better. Just keep the faith and know that all things are going to be just fine. Number 23, when overseas, you learn more about your country than you do the place you're visiting. And this is a quote by Clint Borgen. And I thought that this one was interesting because it definitely holds true for me. I mean, yes, I've learned so much about French culture, Paris and things like that, but I've also learned a lot about the United States. I mean, for one, being in the midst of a pandemic, it's like you definitely see how, you know, the country that you're living in handles something versus, you know, your home country. You know, it's been interesting to see how different countries handle the same situation. And I think also just, you know, learning more about French culture has also made me understand American culture even more as well. Like, for example, I talked about how the French aren't rude, they're real. You know, just kind of having that understanding has helped me to really look at American culture and understand our ways of working and living. You know, we are kind of friendly sometimes. We do like to kind of keep the peace. I feel like little things like that you kind of pick up on when you are living abroad, or even when you've traveled to another country. So number 24, you are you and that is your power. You know, this is definitely something that I've unlocked since moving out here. And this one just holds so true because I do think that we all are very, very unique. I feel like we all have unique gifts and talents that are really meant to help and serve other people. And I think that's why there's kind of no room for competition. Like, there's no need to look at what other people are doing and try and do the same thing. There's just no need for any of that, because I feel like we are all so unique in what we have to offer and also what our journey will bring to us. You know, I do think that we are all here to kind of live out our personal purpose that is so unique to us, and we are all given different obstacles, different tasks, different learnings, different lessons, and I feel like everything that is so unique to us is what makes us the most valuable, which is again why I say you are you and that is your power. Number 25, you have not yet lived until you've tried pain au chocolat from a French bakery. So you guys, pain au chocolat is basically like, I guess you could kind of call it a croissant. Like, it kind of has the same consistency. So it's kind of like a croissant with melted chocolate inside. And oh my God, when I tried this for the first time, I was living. Like, honestly, it's so good. Honestly, one of my favorite French pastries. If you come to Paris, that's the one you gotta try. I'm sure you guys have all heard of pain au chocolat, but it's very, very good. Number 26, As you evolve, you can energetically feel the difference between situations, events, and even sometimes people who are good for you and who are not good for you. And I think this kind of goes back to just, listening and trusting the vibes that you get. But I personally realized this over the years. Let me know if this is something that you guys have realized. But again, as I've gotten older, I feel like the energy that I feel from situations, events, or people is stronger and stronger. And it's like I can almost decipher between, the things I'm supposed to be around and the things that I'm not supposed to be around. So let me know if this has been true for you too. Number 27, and this is actually a quote that I've said in one of my other videos as well. But once you release your grasp, then you give up your resistance, and that which is for you will come to you. And this is a quote by Michael Bernard Beckwith by Oprah's book, The Path Made Clear, which I highly recommend anyone reading if you are on this journey to self-discovery. I'll link this in the description box below. And this has honestly been such a huge learning for me. Once you release your grasp, once you stop trying to control the outcome, what is honestly for you will come to you. And I really, really do believe this is true. And it is something that has also played out in my life as well. It's almost like you just got to release your control to let something better come in. I think that sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, it's like you really try to control a situation because you think it's so important and it's what you really want at the time. But again, as I've shared a little bit earlier, I do think that sometimes you do got to release your control because something greater could be just waiting to come into your life. So that's been a huge learning for me. Number 28, you are always going in the right direction. And I think that this ties back to the quote I shared from Jen Sincero, and also the learning about, just saying that your steps are ordered. I really do feel like we are always going in the right direction, that there's no real mistake that we can make that will prevent us from realizing our life's purpose or our greatest potential. I feel like we're always in the right place at the right time. Everything happens for a reason. I do think that certain things need to happen in our life for us to grow and develop and kind of get us on track to realize our life's purpose. So yeah, you're always going in the right direction. Even if you think you've made some huge mistake, it's either a lesson or a blessing, as I shared before. I just think that we're always on the right track in life, and it's kind of what gives me faith again when I'm going through tough times. Number 29, I didn't come this far to only come this far. And I love this quote. I actually picked it up from Deepika Mityala's Instagram account. So I'm not sure if you guys know her, but she is the founder of Live Tinted, which is a new beauty brand that's really dedicated to celebrating women of all shades, all colors, all races. But I love this quote, and it's been a huge learning for me over the years that you got to keep going. You did not come this far to only come this far. There's always so much to unlock, always so much more to do, see, experience. So just never give up, because there's always something more to unlock and uncover. So last but not least, number 30, and my favorite, is "Oh, the places you'll go." And this is a quote and book by Dr. Seuss. And the way I interpreted it is, oh, the places you'll go when you take a leap of faith, jump out of your comfort zone, and do something that's so true to you. And this is actually a book that my mom always has me read whenever I am, moving to another city, moving to another country, or just about to enter a new chapter in my life. And I'm going to read you a bit from the book, just because I feel like it's so powerful. But it says, "You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know, and you are the guy who'll decide where to go. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew, just go right along, you'll start happening too." So I'm gonna leave that message with you guys, a very powerful learning for me, and I will link that book below. It's a children's book, but again, a beautiful story, powerful message. So that wraps up the 30 things that I've personally learned from having this experience, living abroad, deciding to make the big leap to move abroad, jumping out of my comfort zone, living in Paris, having to experience a new culture, evolving, growing. I feel like these are the 30 things that have held true for me and that I've learned over the years. I'm so excited to see, what part of the video resonated with you the most. But anyways, that's a wrap. That's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching and helping me celebrate my 30th birthday. And I will see you next week.